Good afternoon. This is Kathleen Drew, Chair of the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, bringing our meeting to order. Ms. Owens, will you call the roll, please?
Department of Commerce.
Kate Kelly, present.
Department of Ecology.
Eli Levitt, present.
Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Mike Livingston, present.
Department of Natural Resources.
Lenny Young, present.
Utilities and Transportation Commission.
Stacy Brewster, present.
Local Government and Optional State Agencies for the Horse Heaven Project, Department of Agriculture.
Derek Sanderson, present.
Benton County. For the Badger Mountain Project, Douglas County.
Jordan Julio, Douglas County, present.
Assistant Attorney General.
This is John Thompson, present.
Administrative Law Judges, Adam Torum.
This is Judge Torum, present.
Laura Bradley. For EFSEC Council Staff, Sonia Bumpus.
Sonia Bumpus, present.
Amy Hofkemeyer.
Present.
Amy Moon.
Amy Moon, present.
Joe Wood.
Joe Wood, present.
Patty Betts.
Present.
Stu Henderson.
Present.
Andrea Grantham.
Present.
For the operational updates, Kittitas Valley Wind Project. Wild Horse Wind Power Project.
She's not available. I think I did hear Eric there.
I'll try Kittitas Valley one more time. Eric Mobardis, are you on the line? Grace Harbor Energy Center.
Grace Harbor Energy Center, this is Chris Sharon.
Thank you. Chehalis Generation Facility.
Stefano Schnicker is present.
Columbia Generating Station.
Marshall Schmidt, present.
Columbia Solar.
Owen Hurd, present.
Council for the Environment, Bill Sherman.
Present.
Megan Salami.
Present.
Thank you. Chair, there is a quorum for the regular council.
And for the Horse Heaven?
Oh, pardon, yes, and for the Horse Heaven Council.
Thank you. Moving on to our proposed agenda. You have it here before you. Council members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Kate Kelly, motion to adopt the agenda.
Lenny Young, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The agenda is adopted. Moving on to the draft minutes, which are before you and were in your packet. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Stacy Brewster. I'll move to approve the minutes from the April 19th council meeting.
Thank you.
This is Mike Livingston. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I do have a couple of corrections. So on page 28, lines 15 to 17, there was a couple phrases missing there. It reads, if you can go there, that's page 28, lines 15 to 17. After both sites are owned by a single landowner who has submitted in addition to the application, we need to insert the words, a letter of support for the projects, period. As Amy As Amy noted, each project is. And then it will conclude with 80 megawatts. Also on page 31, line 3, micro signing should be micro siting, S-I-T-I-N-G, and on line 5, sign should be site, S-I-T-E. Were there any other corrections or changes from anyone? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are amended. Moving on to our facility updates. Kittitas Valley Wind Project. Mr. Melbardis?
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, EFSEC, Council, and staff. There was nothing non-routine to report at Kittitas Valley for the period. For the record, this is Eric Melbardis with EDP Renewables.
Thank you. Moving on to Wild Horse Wind Power Project, Ms. Moon?
Thank you, Chair Drew. As Jennifer Galbraith is not here, I will just report that there's no non-routine items to report. The April generation totaled 62,978 megawatt hours for an average capacity factor of 32.09%.
Thank you. Chehalis Generation Facility, Mr. Schnitker?
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, and staff. The Chehalis Generation Facility has a personnel change to report for the month of April. Michael Adams was hired as the new plant manager on April 21st.
Thank you. Grays Harbor Energy Center, Mr. Sharon?
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, and staff. For the month of April, the only non-routine item I have to report is under the, see in the notes, our operating updates is under the upcoming projects. We submitted an application for modification to our air operating permit. Grays Harbor Energy Center is currently authorized to operate under PSD permit EFSEC 2001-01. Amendment 5 and the federal operating permit EFSEC 94-1 air operating permit initial. So Grays Harbor Energy Center's current air operating permit was issued in June 17th of 2020, and we're requesting to amend our operating permit to reflect the equipment upgrades that were approved with our site certification amendment approved in December of 2020. Because of the equipment upgrades, EFSEC amended the Prevention of Significant Deterioration Permit, Amendment 5, in January of 2021. Our operating permit needs to be updated to reflect both the equipment upgrade and the PSD amendment. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. So you're working with EFSEC staff and the air agency on those permits that will then come before us?
Yes, Chair Drew. We just submitted the request.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the council members? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to Columbia Generating Station. Mr. Schmidt?
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, EFSEC Council, and staff. This is Marshall Schmidt reporting for Energy Northwest. I have two main items to report for the month of April. First, on April 11th, Energy Northwest notified EFSEC that we had a discrepancy in the runtime meters for two of our emergency diesel generators, and this discrepancy challenges compliance with EFSEC Order 873. Specifically, we identified that the meters are designed only to record engine runtime once the engines reach rated speed, and they stop recording when the engine is switched to idle. Energy Northwest met with EFSEC and Department of Ecology on May 3rd to discuss this discrepancy. Despite the discrepancy, the actual engine runtime is well below the limits in EFSEC Order 873. And moreover, we have other methods in place to verify the actual engine operational hours, which are going to be used in the interim while we work with EFSEC and Ecology to determine the appropriate corrective actions. The second item I have to report, on April 14th, Energy Northwest notified EFSEC that tritium was detected in the sanitary waste treatment facility influent composite sampler. The amount of activity that we detected in 2 samples taken from the composite sampler were 476 picocuries per liter and 900 picocuries per liter. And those samples were taken about a month apart. Also, they are well below the drinking water limit of 20,000 picocuries per liter. We're investigating the source of the tritium, but it correlates with the commissioning of a new surface water treatment facility that we're constructing at the industrial development complex. There's no evidence to suggest that the recent detection of tritium is related to the operation of Columbia Generating Station, but the source water to the water treatment facility does come from the Columbia River, and Energy Northwest is engaged with the United States Department of Energy for insight on the state of known tritium plumes that are coming from the Hanford site, which Columbia and Industrial Development Complex are situated upon. We are currently developing an incident report and investigation plan as requested by EFSEC for a path forward. That is all I have to report.
Thank you. Are there questions from council members? Okay, we look forward to the resolution and finding the source of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Drew.
Moving on to Columbia Solar, Mr. Hurd.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, and EFSEC staff. This is Owen Hurd from TUSO Energy reporting on the Columbia Solar projects. Just a quick construction update on Penstemon. PSC seems to have resolved the final communications issues with the interconnection. We'll get final confirmation on that tomorrow, but as of last week, it looked like that was resolved. On Camas, we achieved mechanical completion on March 23rd, and substantial completion is now expected June 10th, following resolution of these 2 items. The inverter malfunction issue has since been resolved, and as mentioned above, the Penstemon communication issues, which this was waiting on, has also been resolved. We're doing a full witness test today with PSC, so that's currently underway. And then on Urtica, pile remediation is still underway. These concrete collars being placed on twisted piles. No change in schedule. Mechanical completion is expected late June. Substantial is late July. Other than that, the new site restoration financial assurance has been posted by Greenbacker, and I think that the hard copy of the standby trust, I think EFSEC staff is still awaiting the hard copy of the standby trust agreement, but that is supposedly in transit. And we've been updating our impact calculations based on the final layouts, which we'll be using to inform an updated planting plan that we'll be submitting to EFSEC staff shortly.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council members? Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is Desert Claim Wind Power Project. Ms. Moon.
Good afternoon, Council Chair Drew and members of the council. For the record, this is Amy Moon providing the Desert Claim update. EFSEC staff continue to coordinate with Desert Claim. However, there are no project updates at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to the Horse Heaven Wind Farm. Ms. Moon, the SEPA update, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. This is Amy Moon once again. In April, EFSEC staff continued to work on the preparation of the draft environmental impact statement, or draft EIS. This includes working closely with our contractor Golder, reviewing their draft EIS chapters, refining chapters, and developing proposed minimization and mitigation opportunities. The draft EIS agency coordination in the past month has continued the draft EIS chapter reviews in conjunction with other Washington state agencies who are the state environmental resource experts. EFSEC staff continue to work closely with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife on wildlife and habitat issues, including impact analysis and opportunities for avoidance and minimization of impact.
Thank you.
The work continues to support the applicant in refining an updated mitigation plan. Does the council have any questions?
Are there any questions from council members?
Okay, then moving on. If there are no questions, Amy Hofkamara will present an update on EFSEC's work with the Washington Attorney General's Office on a land use order, as well as a brief update on the adjudication plans.
Thank you. Ms. Hofkamara?
Thank you, Chair Drew and Ms. Moon. Good afternoon, Council. For the record, this is Amy Hofkamara. In your council packet is the draft land use order as directed by the council to be prepared at the April council meeting. Judge Torm is on the line, as well as John Thompson if there are any questions. EFSEC staff are recommending that the council vote to approve this draft order at today's meeting.
Thank you. We can take this item up now, and then we'll come back for the update on the adjudication. Council members, you have the proposed draft order on land use consistency. Are there questions or discussion?
This is Stacy Brewster. Not so much question as this is a process we've been working through most recently. I do want to thank staff and Attorney Generals and Judge Torm for their work on this. It was quite clear and informative. Thank you.
Thanks. So to recap maybe a little bit more information, the land use consistency order is one part of our process, which EFSEC is required to do. And it's laid out in the order, so members of the public, you can also look at the order. But essentially, what we're saying in this order is that the plans for the Horse Heaven project are consistent and in compliance with the overall land use requirements of Benton County. Since it's an allowable use, it's allowed conditionally under the Benton County land use. Then we are just saying in this order essentially that it is an allowable use. We will come back in future. We're not in this action, we are not taking up the whole of the project. We are taking up only whether or not this is an allowable use within the local land use. So if there are conditions that come up that the project needs to address, those will come up during adjudication. So I just wanted to make that clear that that is essentially the action that the council is being asked to make today. Are there any questions, any other questions or comments? I will address just the last part on page 9. The council orders that Scout Clean Energy's application is consistent in compliance with local land use plans and zoning regulations. 2, that Scout Clean Energy's application would require a conditional use permit under local zoning regulations. And 3, the matter shall be set for an adjudication to consider any conditions which might be required for the construction, operation, and maintenance of the facility with growth management. I'm not sure what GMAAD is there. Consistent with Benton County's conditional use criteria in effect at the time of the application for site certification was filed with EFSEC. The adjudication may be held concurrent with or separate from the adjudication related to the application for site certification agreement. So that is essentially the action that the council would take if you were to approve this order.
Chair
Go ahead,
Drew.
Ms. Bumpus. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Drew. For the record, this is Sonia Bumpus. Chair Drew, in the draft order that the council is reviewing in their packets, I believe the GMAAG is referring to the Growth Management Act agricultural land use designation.
Thank you.
And then there is another section. I found this on page 8, where it refers to the Growth Management Act agricultural district.
Thank you. I hadn't made that when I saw the letters. I hadn't remembered exactly what it was, so I appreciate you finding that within the document and bringing that to our attention. Okay, thank you. Are there questions from council members? Mr. Young. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Drew. Could staff explain the time relationship between EFSEC's adjudication and Scout Clean Energy obtaining an approved conditional use permit under local zoning regulations? Is EFSEC's process contingent upon the applicant obtaining that permit, or is it separate from that?
So this is John Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Sorry, it's just
I was going to take a stab at it, but I thought perhaps our AG would be the most appropriate. Go ahead.
Okay, right. So so the EFSEC process of reviewing an application for site certification takes the place of local conditional use permitting. So so there is no conditional use permit process before the county when a facility comes to EFSEC for a site certification agreement. But as Chair Drew was saying earlier, and kind of reciting the last directives of the order there, where the commission, or excuse me, where the council can determine, as here, that a proposed land use is not prohibited by local zoning, but it is something that can be permitted as a conditional use, then it's been EFSEC's practice to say that it's consistent and in compliance with local land use plans and zoning ordinances. But then to essentially have the same sort of process as you would have at the county, where the applicant has to go before a hearing examiner and demonstrate that it meets, or that it can meet, with the imposition of conditions, the county's conditional use criteria. So basically that part of the county process is sort of subsumed and taken up in EFSEC's adjudication process when EFSEC is having an adjudication for a particular application process. So hopefully that explains it.
Yeah, I think so. I guess to me that sounds like really point number 2 under the council orders is mooted out and is not a requirement, and it's replaced by EFSEC's adjudication. Is that correct?
I'm not.
I'm not certain what you mean by point number 2.
The point that says under the council orders, it says Scout Clean Energy's application would require a conditional use permit under local zoning regulations. Does that mean if the applicant was trying to get the project permitted under local authority, it would require that permit, but it's not required if the applicant is proceeding through EFSEC?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate
Yes,
that.
and at the same time, we both are, EFSEC is required to take into consideration any conditions that would be required under the local county law as well. So, so essentially, EFSEC is bringing those conditions under consideration in a later part of the process because we do need to consider that.
Right, but as a matter of permitting process, because of the manner in which the applicant is proceeding through EFSEC, it does not also need to obtain a conditional use permit from the county.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Are there additional questions or discussion?
Chair Drew, this is Kate Kelly.
Go ahead.
And so this might be another question for John, but I'm just trying to understand the difference between the zoning regulations, what's referred to as the zoning regulations, and then the comprehensive plan, which may or may not be the same as the local land use plans. So just about and it may become an issue when we do the equivalency with the conditional use, but just trying to understand the different, what we are deciding this application is consistent with.
Mr. Thompson?
Right. So the zoning ordinances are adopted to, consistent with and to implement the comprehensive plan, which is a more general sort of a planning document. So sort of where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, is the actual zoning ordinances that say what uses are allowed outright or can be conditionally permitted within a particular zoning district. So once the county has adopted a zoning code, then that really becomes the relevant consideration. The sometimes the conditional use criteria will point back to the comprehensive plan, the goals of it and so forth, and point to a need for consistency with the goals of a particular district, or what have you. So it doesn't become completely irrelevant, but the real details of what's permitted and under what conditions in a particular zoning district is really spelled out in the zoning code.
Follow up, Chair Drew.
Yes.
So in the part of the order that's on the screen right now, John, is the under line 34.1. It says that the application is consistent and in compliance with local land use plans. That's not the comprehensive plan.
It is the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Yes.
If I can add a little further, it is consistent and in compliance because it's an allowable use in the agricultural district and requires a conditional use permit.
Yeah, I might just offer one correction maybe to that. There's sort of a terminology that's used sometimes between allowable uses and conditionally permitted uses.
Oh, thank
you.
you.
Yeah, so there's some uses might be allowed outright, meaning you don't have to get a conditional use permit for them. But in this case, a solar or wind farm, major solar or wind farms within this particular agricultural district are not allowed outright, but they are potentially permittable as a conditional use. So
Thank you for that clarification. Other questions or comments? Discussion? I think what I need is a motion. I don't believe we have a motion before us yet. A motion to approve council order.
Lenny Young, so moved.
Thank you. Second?
Stacy Brewster, second.
Thank you. I would like us to have a roll call vote on the order. Ms. Owens?
Department of Commerce,
Kate Kelly, aye.
Department of Ecology,
Eli Levitt, aye.
Department of Fish and Wildlife,
Mike Livingston, aye.
Department of Natural Resources,
Lenny Young, aye.
Utilities and Transportation Commission,
Stacy Brewster, aye.
EFSEC Chair.
Kathleen Drew, aye. Is Mr. Brost on the line?
No, but Department of Agriculture, Derek Sanderson should be on the line.
Okay,
Derek Sanderson, aye.
thank you.
The ayes have it. Chair Drew.
Thank you. Thank you all. So we have approved the order for land use consistency or for finding the proposed site consistent with land use regulations. Moving on now to the next portion of our conversation on, are we going to talk about adjudication now, Ms. Hofgemeyer?
Thank you, Chair Drew. I only have a brief update on the adjudication. Staff are still working closely with Judge Torum to weigh decisions regarding hearing logistics and timing. We anticipate having more information on the pre-hearing conference and adjudication available to the council and the public at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the council members? Thank you all. Moving to the next item on our agenda. I think we're on Goose Prairie Solar Project. We are. And
Hello, this is Joe Wood.
it is you. Okay, Mr. Wood. I was looking for my agenda so I could make sure
No
who was
problem.
coming next. Go ahead.
This is Joe Wood providing an update on the Goose Prairie Solar Project. Currently, EFSEC and the applicant are working to put together various pre-construction plans and permits for the next phases of the project, and will update the council and staff in future meetings. That's it.
Thank you. For Badger Mountain, Ms. Hofgemeyer.
Thank you, Chair Drew. EFSEC staff are reviewing the State Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA, scoping comments from the comment period that was open from March 14th through April 12th. EFSEC staff received 14 comments from the public, 7 comment letters from other state agencies, and 1 comment letter from the Yakama Nation. We are working with our contractor to develop recommendations to the SEPA responsible official, Ms. Bumpus, on what topics we would recommend to include in the environmental impact statement, or EIS, for the proposal. And staff are also continuing to coordinate with the applicant and our contracted agencies on our review of the application. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Are those SEPA comment letters available on our website at this point?
Yes, all the comments that we received are available on the project website for, on the Badger Mountain page of the EFSEC website.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Whistling Ridge Energy Project, Ms. Hofgemeyer.
Thank you, Chair Drew. At the April council meeting, staff provided an update about the Whistling Ridge project that staff were working with the developer to prepare an amendment to the current Whistling Ridge Site Certification Agreement, or SCA. At that meeting, Councilmember Young requested that staff bring the council up to date on the activity related to the project. In response to that request, staff have enclosed related documents in your packets, and these include the 5-year update that was provided to the council in 2018 by the developer. Also available in the council packet is the developer's request for an extension of the SCA dated March 2nd, as well as a letter from the developer indicating that an SCA transfer request would be forthcoming to EFSEC and request that the council consider these actions together. Are there any questions about these documents before I provide an overview of the history of the project up to this point?
Are there any questions right now? Go ahead.
Thank you. The application for the project was submitted to EFSEC in 2009. In 2012, then Governor Gregoire approved the site certification agreement. In 2013, the Washington Supreme Court issued a decision denying an appeal of the project. Between 2013 and 2015, Bonneville Power Administration, or BPA, worked on a National Environmental Policy Act final environmental impact statement and its supplement in response to comments that they had received. In 2018, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a decision denying an appeal filed in 2015 regarding BPA's decision to grant interconnection of the project. Between 2018 and 2022, the original certificate holder began discussions regarding the sale of the company assets to multiple potential buyers, which included the sale of the property Whistling Ridge would be built on to Twin Creeks Timber LLC, who are managed by Green Diamond Management Company. And that brings us to the present. EFSEC's rule in Washington Administrative Code 463-66-030 addresses requests for amendments to a site certification agreements and indicates that the council consider the request for SCA amendment and determine a schedule for action at the next feasible council meeting. In this case, the developer has requested that the extension and the request for transfer of ownership be considered together. Based on our discussions with the developer, staff recommend that the council wait to set a schedule of the review of the SCA amendment request until such a time that the developer provides the other materials needed to complete the amendment request. We believe this would be in accordance with WAC 463-66-030 and would allow the council to take up all aspects of the amendment request under one review process. Are there any questions?
Do you have an idea of how long it might take for us to receive the rest of the application materials?
The developer anticipates submitting the rest of the materials tentatively in the next few weeks, but certainly no later than the end of June.
Thank you. Mr. Young?
Yeah, our question for staff, are you prepared or could you summarize the nature of the litigation that led to the Washington Supreme Court challenging the site certification agreement and the litigation that led to the Ninth Circuit challenging BPA's work? Is that possible? Or is that asking too much for right here on the spot?
Chair Drew, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Young. I think that it might be a good idea if we have the folks from Whistling Ridge, perhaps their legal counsel. I'm not sure if they're on the line, but we could potentially schedule a time for them to come in and do an update about those particulars. I'd want the staff to be very careful about trying to characterize the aspects
Sure.
of the litigation.
Sure. Alternatively, would it be possible to provide some links to the appropriate documents around those two court cases?
Yes, I think that would be that'd be something we could.
I'm certainly not asking for a legal interpretation. Just curious as to the general nature of the challenges, and if we had access to the relevant court documents, I think that could be quickly discerned.
That would be a great idea.
If I could jump in here briefly, Councilmember Young, there are links to some of that information. I don't know that it's necessarily all of the information you're looking for, but some of the information on the appeals and some of the judicial review on the Whistling Ridge project of EFSEC's website.
Great, thank you.
And maybe if we could ask Mr. Thompson if you could at least help us with making sure we have the documents pertinent to the state Supreme Court on our website. I think what we don't have is, and we weren't involved in, was the case that involved BPA.
And I'd like to maybe just be clear for the record that my interest in this is more to fully understand the history of what's taken place in the past. And I'm not trying to connect any past events to anything new or anything that is going forward.
I think it's a good idea just for us to have the knowledge of. Thank you. Are there other questions? I think also
Chair Drew?
Go ahead, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you. I read through the whole document. I just got a little so the extension is a request for 3 years because the SCA has been in place for 10 years now, although a lot of that was taken up with litigation. And the amendment is a separate thing. We're not amending the SCA to extend the time. Correct. That's a separate action.
Either Ms. Hofgemeyer or Ms. Bumpus, if you want to answer the question, what the extension and the other piece that's not yet, that we don't yet have, is the transfer of ownership. Oh, either one.
Sure, I can hop in here. So they are two separate items. We just also have a request from the developer that they be considered together. One action is the request for extension because the project was certified quite some time ago. The new owner would like some time to take actions such as do some renewed field work to update their studies that were initially associated with the project. And then there is another action related to the transfer of ownership because of the sale of the property. One of the requirements of site certification agreement is that the council approve of the transfer of site certification agreements. So there are two actions, one request for the transfer of ownership and one request for an extension. But the developer has requested that the council consider that actions together, and that's in the letter in your council packet as well.
And that would be, though, that is an amendment request, which I think is what your specific question was.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Okay, we will continue to provide information. The staff will continue to provide information about this as we move forward. Okay. Agenda. Moving on to the High Top and Austria Solar Project update.
Thank you. EFSEC staff are currently working on our review of the application for these projects. We have also reached out to other agencies such as WDFW, Ecology, Department of Natural Resources, and Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation to begin coordination on their review of the application. EFSEC staff are also working to schedule the public informational meeting and land use consistency hearing for this project, which is currently tentatively set for Wednesday evening, June 1st. Are there any questions?
You should have access to the application materials, and we do have some hard copies available as well as some thumb drives available. So be sure to contact Ms. Owens if you would like one of those for this project. Any questions? Okay, thanks. Moving on to Watoma Solar Project, Ms. Hofkemeyer.
Thank you. EFSEC staff received application materials for a proposed facility referred to as Watoma Solar, which is a 470 megawatt solar facility with battery storage proposed in Benton County. EFSEC staff are coordinating with our contracted agencies to initiate review and looking to schedule the initial required meetings for the proposal. Laura O'Neill with the developer has prepared a brief presentation for the council on this project.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill.
Hello, thanks for having me today. I can either share my screen and run the slides myself, but I think I would need to be granted permission to do that, or someone else could just roll through the slides that are included in the packet.
Ms. Owen?
One moment and I can make you a presenter as soon as I find you on the list here.
Great. Okay, there we go. Okay, are my slides showing?
Yes, we can see them.
Perfect. Okay. Chair Drew, council members, and all attendees for having me here today to present about the proposed Watoma Solar Project. My name is Laura O'Neill. I'm the Senior Coordinator of Environment for Interjects Renewable Energy. We will provide an introduction. As you know, our application for site certification was submitted on May 6th. Interjects develops, constructs, and operates renewable energy projects that we own for the long term. We believe in sustainable development that balances people, our planet, and prosperity. We were founded over 30 years ago in 1990 Innergex is a global leader with solar, wind, and hydro operations across the United States, Canada, Chile, and France. We currently have 80 facilities in operation. While our headquarters are in Canada, we have worked in the US for over 15 years and have a main office in San Diego with regional offices in Hawaii, Massachusetts, and Texas. In response to Washington's clean energy mandates, we're proposing a project of up to 470 megawatts with a 4-hour battery energy storage system as an option. At this output, we would have enough to power over 70,000 Washington households. And for reference, the county in which we're located, Benton County, contains approximately 74,000 households. As mentioned, we're in Benton County. We're located about 12.5 miles northeast of Sunnyside and 1 mile south of the State Route 241 and 24 interchange. We've chosen this location for several reasons. It has an excellent solar resource. It's adjacent to a point in the regional transmission system, which will not require substantial upgrades. We'll interconnect the BPA Watoma substation, which is located within the project area. The site is generally level and open with few environmental constraints. And importantly, we're fortunate to be working with interested and supportive landowners. On the screen, you'll see our preliminary layout. While we've studied more than 3,500 acres, the black outline, the solar field and associated infrastructure, as currently contemplated, are anticipated to occupy about 3,000 acres. This layout has avoided environmental and cultural resource constraints identified from field investigations, including wetlands and streams, a burrowing owl nest, that's this big half moon up in the northwest corner, and small patches of talus habitat and Columbia milk vetch. We've also incorporated passageways through the solar array fencing to allow big game to pass through the project area. Of course, through the permitting and engineering process, we anticipate changes to the project size or configuration may occur. We have engaged Tetra Tech as our lead environmental consultant for the project. In preparation for the application for site certification, they've conducted field surveys and completed a Part 4 analysis of all relevant environmental aspects. This included standalone studies on the following topics: wetland delineation, plant and wildlife habitat, cultural and archaeological resources, visual and acoustic impacts, glint and glare, and traffic and transportation. Studies completed, several plans will be developed to describe how we will avoid, minimize, and mitigate potential impacts through construction and operation. A list of these plans is this slide. There are many stakeholders for the project, agencies, EFSEC, of course, along with others such as WDFW, Ecology, and DAHP, tribal governments, Benton County commissioners, our participating landowners, as well as adjacent landowners. To date, we've held several meetings to introduce the project to the community. We had an in-person meeting in March with participating and adjacent landowners. A virtual meeting open to the public was held in April, and we presented to the Benton County Board of Commissioners just this morning. As far as jobs and services go, we always strive to buy locally and hire local contractors where possible, and a local procurement policy will be put in place to ensure benefits reach local skilled workers and local businesses during construction and operation. We anticipate about 300 to 400 people will be employed on site during construction, and peak points may reach 100 or 200 more. During the 30 to 50-year project operations term, we expect to employ 3 or 4 full-time technical positions, plus external maintenance contracts. In addition to opportunities for local employment, the project will provide the following benefits: a source of annual property tax revenue to Benton County. For example, a 400 megawatt project would be expected to contribute $3 to $4 million in the first year of operation, benefiting schools, the port, roads, and other county services. Will provide a source of stable, long-term revenue for participating landowners, along with community investments, and of course, a source of clean, reliable, renewable energy. As noted earlier, we've completed the applicable environmental and engineering surveys throughout 2021 and recently submitted our ASC. Next steps, we'll work with Ms. Hafkemeier's team to schedule the initial public meeting and land use consistency hearing, likely in early July. And our aim is to work towards issuance of the SCA in late 2023. On this timeline, we anticipate the earliest construction start would be Q1 2024. And finally, thank you again for having me. We're really excited to begin the permitting process and work with EFSEC in service of Washington's clean energy goals. If you have any questions at any later time, my contact information is on this slide, as well as a link to the project's website.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill. Are there any questions from council members?
This is Stacy Brewster. I'm curious, is there any plans for battery storage with this solar array?
There are. We've included them in our ASC application as part of the preliminary layout. And because we are looking at several different options, but it is likely to include batteries, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? We look forward to working with you throughout this process. And as you said, our next step is to schedule that opportunity to hear from the public on the project. So thank you for being here today and appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Moving on to our legislative update, which I think is actually our implementation of the legislation update by Ms. Bumpus. But before she begins, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce a new member of our team, Dave Walker.
Hello, folks. My name is Dave Walker. Just recently on the project working House Bill 1812 to get the transition completed. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I think things are going well so far and really appreciate the opportunity to be serving again. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave comes to us after being recently retired after 30+ years in state service at the Department of Corrections and the Department of Licensing, where he served as Deputy Assistant Director for Business and Professions Division, as well as the Assistant Director for the Customer Relations Division. So he has a lot of know-how in how our state government operates, which is going to help us transition to our next phase as an agency. So really appreciate you being on board. Thanks. And Ms. Bumpus, would you like to give an update?
Yes, thank you, Chair Drew, for that really wonderful introduction for Dave. It's been great having Dave on our team, and we're making, I think, some steady progress now on our transition efforts. So for the record, this is Sonia Bumpus. Good afternoon, Chair Drew and council members. Just a couple of things on the legislative update. These will probably get a little bit more detailed as we move forward. So today's update's pretty high level, but basically just to let the council know that we have been successfully working with the Department of Enterprise Services Small Agency Services Group to identify the different support we will need, the different services we will need. That discussion has been moving along really well. We are now at a point where we're getting ready to, I think, form some interagency agreements where we can start to rely on some of those services in the interim until June 30th when House Bill 1812 takes effect. So that's going right along. The other thing that I wanted to let the council know about is that we've also been working internally, discussing organizational changes to the structure of EFSEC. So there'll be more information forthcoming about that, but that has included taking advantage of our additional FTEs that we now will have post June 29. So we'll be adding siting specialists to EFSEC. We're also going to be creating some new positions for some of the things that we'll be needing to do internally now that we used to rely on the UTC to do. So things such as records support. So there'll be a lot of new information forthcoming about the structure of EFSEC, what that's going to look like, new positions that we'll be creating to take advantage of those additional and badly needed FTEs as we get more projects and the scope of our work grows. We'll certainly need to add staff to our team. So I look forward to providing additional updates about the organizational changes, the transition, and hopefully the next time I provide an update, we'll have some perhaps contracts in place so that we can start taking advantage of those services with DES. Are there any questions from Chair Drew or council members about the transition? Anything you're wondering about that I haven't mentioned or would like to hear in the future?
Council members, do you have questions or?
Chair Drew, and Sonia, this is Kate Kelly. I just want to, say congratulations and good luck to you in undertaking all this expansion. But anyway, I hope you please let council members know how we can help as you take on this, what is going to undoubtedly be a big project. So stand ready to help you in the transition.
Thanks
very much. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.